Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to welcome people in the gallery and staff and councillors to the Ordinary Council meeting, and to people who may be watching online. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and the voices and images of those participating in the meeting and in the gallery may be captured as part of the recording. I'd like to acknowledge the original custodians of the land that we're meeting on, and pay respects to elders past and present, and to any descendants who may be with us tonight. As councillors, we've all taken an oath to carry out our duties in the best interests of the people of Indigo Shire, and to do this in a fair and impartial manner. We are all committed to exercising the council's powers and functions to the best of our skills and judgment. So do I have any apologies and leave of absence? I can certainly put in an apology for Councillor Shepherd. Anybody else? No? Any declaration of conflict of interest? Okay, straight to open forum, and we've got questions from 3 members of the gallery. It's so you can be recorded, Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. The question on behalf of the Beechworth Trisco Group, and reflecting the community concerns, these questions seek information on what steps Council's taking to protect registered significant trees from indiscriminate felling. There's 3 questions. I'm happy to read them as a set or separately if you like.
You can read them one at a time if you like, and we'll answer them as you go.
Question 1. Shouldn't registration by council of a significant tree be sufficient to prevent unauthorised felling?
Okay, so I'll probably hand over to our Director, Mark Florence. But just to say there, Harvey, that of the issues you've raised tonight, that just as a general comment, we are aware of the concerns about trees, particularly on private land, being felled, trees that are important to people. Mm-hmm. And we are actually looking at what other councils do and whether there's some way we can extend our capacity to protect trees. So to be more specific, I'll actually get Mark to respond to your questions. It's unfortunately not as easy as we would like it to be. I think it's fair to say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Harvey, for the question. So our existing significant tree register is only in its infancy, I suppose, and it has no legal basis within the planning scheme at the moment. So it cannot require a potential tree feller to obtain any approvals. Our current controls relating to tree destruction are primarily, that are listed in the Indigo planning scheme, are native vegetation, any trees that are listed in the heritage overlay or in the neighbourhood character overlay. And there are some specific controls in other overlays as well. We also control some of these listed significant trees by virtue of their location on council land. So at the moment, the significant tree register, as I say, it's in its infancy, doesn't have any legal basis at this time, but there are existing controls within the scheme.
Mm-hmm. Okay, second question, Harvey.
Thank you. Why doesn't council heritage strategy for 2017 to 25 have a timeline for protection rather than just registration?
So Mark, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah,
Thank you.
So as I've mentioned, the trees on most of the sites listed within the heritage overlay are protected by the provisions of that overlay. Because protection already exists for trees on the heritage listed sites, in relation to the heritage strategy, in hindsight, there really wasn't any need to have it listed in the heritage strategy to address the matter. And I should also point out that if a site is listed on the state register, its controls supersedes the controls that we have. So there's, a couple of bites at the cherry there.
Okay, and the third question.
Other councils, most recently South Gippsland Regional Council and Whittlesea, right now amending their planning schemes to protect their significant trees. why not Indigo?
So our initial assessment of both South Gippsland and Whittlesea shows that South Gippsland is working to amend its planning scheme after having a significant tree register in place for some time, much longer than Indigo. So its approach will be to insert controls into the various overlays in relation to those trees. The Whittlesea activity, we believe at this stage anyway, is focused more on, there's already an existing policy within their planning scheme related to river red gums, which are located on the Donnybrook interface there on the freeway. So that they're looking to strengthen that policy in relation to river red gums. This council, Indigo Council, we know that they're considering how or when they would seek to amend its own planning scheme in relation to significant trees, but you know it's a matter for council to decide when they want to go down that path.
I think community would like this process to be accelerated somewhat.
Yeah. So Harvey, probably I just will come in on top of what Mark has just said, and we have actually been in touch with South Gippsland. We have been exploring with them how they've done that, what's worked, what hasn't. It's not actually as straightforward as I was hoping it would be, as I said earlier. And councillors are currently getting underway with the planning scheme review, and it's certainly something that at least a number of us are very concerned about. Again, it takes more time than we would like it to. And I think it is really good that the community is speaking out about this, at least does send a message to people that own trees on private land, which limits our role, at least sends a message that people are concerned about this. Yeah, so we are trying to do what we can, but as always, it takes quite a long time, and it's a very convoluted process.
It is, and I do understand that access to trees is different to protecting of trees, and in a sense I wonder about transfer of land if someone that owns land.
Well, we can have that conversation with people to have ideas about how we might do it. By all means, email us with those, but we'll have to leave it there for now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Harvey. So the second questioner is Robin McLeish. Robin's got 3 questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My first question. Council collects rates to provide the services required by residents. The rating system should be fair and equitable and reflect the services provided to ratepayers. What are the specific services that Council provides for farmland that farmers are required to pay over and above the residential rates that they must pay for their house and surrounds?
Just to be clear, Robin, I believe, would I be right in saying that the farm rate is lower than the residential rate? Yeah, it's 75%.
Yes, I'm aware of the 75%.
Just want to clarify that.
But that's on the total value of his farm property, including the house and the farmland. I want to know what are the specific services Council provides for farmland.
Okay.
Do they have Meals on Wheels for the cows, or
thank
are they
you,
putting
Robin.
street lighting in?
I don't think that's one of them, but thank you, Robin.
No, I just seek to help to explain the situation.
Thank you, Robin. Mr. Pinkerton, can you answer that question?
I believe I can. Thank you for the question. So Council provides a range of services from roads through to maternal health, libraries, everything in between, and they're provided to all people in Indigo Shire, so there's accessibility throughout the Shire on most of those services. How Council fund those services is a mixture of grants or fees for user-paid type situations, and obviously rates, which is what your question relates to. Council is very interested in that equity between different property owners, and I would probably suggest the best information on that is Council's rating strategy, which was adopted a year or two ago. And probably to answer your question, I'll just read a little bit out of the rating strategy. So taxation revenue, whether it's federal, state or local level, is generally used to fund various forms of public goods, services and community obligations. This is not necessarily in direct relation to user benefit, but ultimately to the benefit of the community as a whole. In this respect, rates are a general purpose levy and not linked to user pays principles. And there's a fair bit in that policy that would be worth looking at. So that section answers your question, but I would certainly refer you to the rating strategy, which is on Council's website.
Okay, thank you. Second question.
Sorry, you would be aware that we have a Royal Commission into Banking at the moment, and the banks and the AMP organisations are being challenged about making customers pay for services they don't provide.
So
my question was, what services do you provide for the farmers for their farmland?
So, Mr McLeish, you're obviously not happy with the answer to that question, but nevertheless that's the answer that was given. So would you like to ask your second question?
Certainly would.
Thank you.
My submission to the council budget included a question regarding the $40,000 project to install electrical outlets in the Rutherglen Lions Park. Council's reply stated that the work had been carried out in a park in Rutherglen. My visit to the Lions Club Park did not provide any evidence of recent electrical installation. Where was the work carried out?
So, our Director of Infrastructure, Ian Ellett, would you be able to answer that?
Thanks, Robin. Your question was, where was the works carried out?
Correct.
So at the Rutherglen Lions Park?
Okay, are they submerged electrical points or something? I can't find them. I can't see them. To clarify it, I'm talking about the Lions Club Park immediately in front of the old railway station labelled Lions Club Room.
Yeah, that's the correct park. So I guess in seeing your question, where is the electrical installation located? And I haven't actually been out there and had a look, but I'm told it's in the middle of the park at the base of the old supply point. So it is still waiting on an updated electrical connection from the retailer, but all the other works are being completed.
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
I'll check it again. So.
Okay, and number 3, please.
Right. Which organisation prepared the grant application for the Beechworth rail shed upgrade?
Indigo Shire Council prepared that.
Indigo Shire Council?
Yep.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
I won't seek to pursue the matter further at this arena.
If you've got some more issues, of course, email us or write to the CEO.
I have other opportunities to pursue the...
All right, thank you. And the third person is Ed Tyree.
Thanks, Mayor. Good evening.
Good evening, Ed.
The VCAT decision approving the permit for the utility facility at Kew Springs was issued on the 23rd of November 2015. It's just over 2 years since it came into operation. 22 conditions were imposed on the use and continued development of the utility. Council very sensibly put in place a monitoring regime of the facility that includes the monthly report. This month, like most of the preceding months, since inception, the report is stated compliant, no issues reported. This implies that compliance depends upon issues being reported, and if so, by whom?
Is that your first question? Who
There's
Director of
3
Infrastructure?
questions in the statement. Do you want to answer them one by one? Or?
Yeah, we'll start with that one.
Okay.
So who is meant to report compliance issues?
Generally, I suppose a more general question is Council doesn't have the resources to monitor all the conditions of all the permits that we issue across a year. The best we can do is to react to the situation as it's made, the attention is drawn to us, and we follow up the issue from there. So in relation to this, we have, apart from the early phase where we're probably more proactive in the monitoring, we've relied on residents to provide some information about any potential breaches. All
right. So next question, Ed.
Does Council regularly inspect or monitor the facility? The answer is no.
Not regularly, no. We wait. As I said, we're more proactive in the early phase, but given the lack of resources to cover all the permits that are issued, we rely particularly on the information provided by the public.
Okay. And last question, Ed.
Could I just make the comment in relation to that? So that if there's no reporting, there's no monitoring, how can we say compliant every month?
It's based on the fact that nobody has reported a breach. And again, I would just say to the community, please let us know if you think that things aren't going according to the...
I encourage the community to report.
Yeah, and absolutely. We want to hear if there's a problem.
The conditions attached to the planning permit require action by two responsible authorities, Council and Goulburn Murray Water. Is there any collaboration between the two agencies on the monthly reporting, or at any time, in fact, to ensure the conditions are complied with?
So the short answer, Ed, would be no on a regular basis. In any other general interactions with GMW's staff, where there'd be conversations about it, but in terms of their monitoring of their responsibilities, it's something for them to be able to focus on. We, as I alluded to, we struggle to meet our own in terms of the compliance issues.
I understand the answer.
Yep.
Exactly. But given the high-profile nature of this issue and the fact that there were specific conditions placed on Goulburn Murray Water, which over the 2 years we've never seen any action by Goulburn Murray Water to comply with the conditions, to make sure the conditions have been applied with.
Thank you for raising it. I think that issue actually needs to go to Goulburn Murray Water. We can raise it with them, but I would also, again, encourage, if the Stanley community doesn't feel confident that Goulburn Murray Water is adequately monitoring this issue, that be taken up with them, and you let us know that you're doing that, so we can support that.
Thanks, Mayor. I just think that if you look at the conditions, they are part of the permit.
Yeah, okay.
And the permit is a planning permit, and I know conditions are implied. The council has the responsibility for most of them.
Yeah.
But the Goulburn Murray Water conditions are part of the planning permit.
Yeah, I understand that. But so I'm just making the point that you're right, and also Goulburn Murray Water has a role in monitoring and compliance, so it would be important to raise it with them as well.
And will council raise that issue?
Well, I'm sure we can now, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got them coming here. So, yes, as Councillor Goldsworthy said, we've got a meeting with them in August. We will happily raise that with them.
Thank you,
in
and
that
good
meeting.
Luck.
Yeah. Yes, I can't guarantee any outcomes, of course. Okay, so thank you for those of you that have contributed to Open Forum. Do we have any condolence motions tonight? No. So confirmation of minutes from the previous meetings, that the minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting held on the 26th of June 2018, as published on our website, be confirmed. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Price, the seconder. Councillor Goldsworthy, anyone want to speak to the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Deputations and petitions. The recommendation is in relation to the petition received at the June Ordinary Council meeting from Chiltern Valley residents, that Council, 1, notes the proposed response to the petition, and 2, that this response be communicated in writing to the petition organiser. Do I have someone to move that motion? Councillor Murdoch, seconder. Councillor Price, anyone wish to make any comment? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 10.1, Assembly of Councillors' Records. The recommendation is that Council accepts the attached Assembly of Councillor Records, which is available for people to see on the agenda on the website. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Trenery, seconder. Councillor Murdoch. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 10.2, Council Advisory Committee Minutes. The recommendation is that Council receives and notes the resolution of the attached unconfirmed Advisory Committee minutes and endorses the officer comments. Again, these are available to be read on the website. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Gaffney, a seconder. Councillor Murdoch. Wish to speak to it? No. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. And 10.3 is instruments of delegation. The recommendation is, this is from Corporate Services, the recommendation is that Council delegates to the person holding the position, acting in or performing the duties of CEO, Chief Executive Officer, the powers, duties and functions set out in the attached instrument of delegation to the Chief Executive Officer, subject to the conditions and limitations specified in that instrument. Secondly, delegates to the members of council staff holding, acting in or performing the duties of the positions referred to in the attached instrument of delegation to members of council staff, the powers, duties and functions set out in that instrument, subject to the conditions and limitations specified in that instrument. Thirdly, it authorises the CEO to affix council's common seal to the instrument of delegation to the Chief Executive Officer and the instrument of delegation to members of council staff. The instruments come into force immediately once the common seal of council is affixed to the instrument. Fourthly, revokes all previous delegations to the Chief Executive Officer and to members of staff immediately once the common seal of council is affixed to the updated instrument. 5, notes that the duties and functions set out in the instruments must be performed and the powers set out in the instruments must be executed in accordance with any guidelines or policies of council that may from time to time adopt. And lastly, notes that the instrument of delegation to the Chief Executive Officer includes a power of delegation to the CEO in accordance with Section 98(1) of the Local Government Act 1989, and the instrument of delegation to members of council staff is in accordance with Section 98(3) of the Act. Do I have someone to move that motion? And I'm not repeating it. Councillor Trenery, do I have a seconder? Councillor Murdoch, does anyone wish to speak to this? Councillor Trenery.
When this comes up, there's usually comments about tail wagging the dog and so on, because there's obviously got to delegate some powers over to staff with our oversight. We're not going to be in every day signing cheques and going through the day-to-day office needs. So this is what this is about, and I'd like to note that there's been very few to no changes other than some grammatical changes in it. So the oversight of council is still as strong as it has been.
Thank you. Councillor Murdoch, do you wish to add anything to that? No. Okay, so anyone else wish to make a comment? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 10.4, purchase of Beechworth land. So the recommendation is that Council, 1, agrees in principle to purchase land at 63 High Street, Beechworth, and 2, if that is agreed, it closes the meeting to the public under sections 89(2) and 89E and 89H of the Local Government Act to consider the purchase of land at 63 High Street, Beechworth. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Goldsworthy, do I have a seconder? No seconder. I'm not going to second it. I can't do it from the chair. I think that's outside custom, to be honest. So I don't feel comfortable seconding. Yeah, I don't feel comfortable seconding from the chair. I'll just check with the corporate services. I've never seen it done, so on that basis I'm not prepared to do that right now. Yeah, that's my understanding. So on that basis, I'm not prepared to second from the chair and I'm not prepared to leave the chair. So anyone else to second the motion? Anyone wish to second it for discussion? It appears not, so the motion lapses. Okay, 11.1, if I'm incorrect about that, you can let me know, but that's my understanding and that was what I was informed when I became the mayor, that I couldn't do that from the chair. 11.1, the recommendation is that Council endorses the draft Kiwa-Tangambalanga placemaking plan and draft Kiwa-Tangambalanga structure plan and make them available for public comment for a period of 30 days. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Murdoch, and a seconder. Councillor Price, do you wish to speak to that?
Like we've been doing right across the Shire, this is another placemaking project, which is, and I can say from Chiltern's point of view, it's been a very successful program. And now we're giving the opportunity again for Tangambalanga to have the same sort of process going on. This is the plan that they've come up with so far, and it's going out for consultation, and hopefully people will read it. It's, I think there's some very interesting things there. You'll see how the community has wanted all sorts of buildings and road establishments and which are practical, access to the river, all of those things. And as it's a structure plan and a placemaking plan, and it is going out for consultation, I think that the right thing to do is to give it a good read and come back with comments. There could be improvements or there could be things in there you don't like.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Price.
It says within the report there's been over 350 interactions take place in the development of the plans, but this is just, again, another opportunity to have another input now that you've seen the draft. It's a really timely document given the major transition that Kiwi-Tangambalanga has been facing, triggered by the dairy processing changes and a 500-lot subdivision. So there's been lots of input to date and we welcome any further input.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak to this? Yeah, Councillor Trenery.
Just very quickly, I mean, thanks to Councillor Goldsworthy's fine efforts, we've found out that Kiwi-Tangambalanga is the fastest growing area in our shire, so it's very timely and it's money well spent. And also it's a job well done. I know talking to people over there, a lot of people have an opportunity to input, so which is fantastic, which is what it's all about.
Anyone else wish to speak to it? Councillor Gaffney.
Just got a question, Madam Mayor, for Councillor Trenery. What does he mean that Kiwi-Tangam is the fastest growing region or village in Indigo Shire? I don't think that is correct.
I'm happy to defer to the person who went through.
I did ask the question to Councillor Trenery. If he can't answer the question, he shouldn't have said it. I'll just let it lie there, Madam Mayor.
I'm happy to refer to the census information that confirms that.
Councillor Goldsworthy, do you want to comment on that? Yeah.
Thank you. It is correct that if you look at the census figures for 2011 through to 2016, that Tangambalanga has grown by about 50% over that time. Some people erroneously believe that Waganya is the fastest growing village in our area, but it's not. The only reason that it has grown at all really is because they increased the size of the census area by almost double.
Okay.
Its population increase just in that time was around the mid-20%.
Okay, that's the end of that conversation. I will say that in the placemaking and structure plan, it's very clear that the population of Tangambalanga is set to double. So irrespective of who won the race to get there first, it is nevertheless a very rapidly growing part of the Shire, and therefore this structure plan is absolutely essential. Thank you for all of your input, but we're going to move on. We're going to put it to the vote.
Can I just...
Certainly, you can
I think it's very important that people go and have a look at this plan, because Tangambalanga is growing fast, as we've just noticed, and to make the town develop so that we can make it so that it can develop in an orderly way, so that people can enjoy the standard of living that they've probably got now, because it is a great town. But it will be more, or would be better, if we could have some more input to the plan as it is now. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour of releasing the placemaking plan and the Tangam structure plan for comment, please indicate. All those in favour. It's the word I was looking for. Fastest growing town. Thank you. That's right. 11.2, Q Springs Water Extraction Monthly Monitoring. The recommendation is that Council notes the Q Springs Water Extraction Facility Monitoring Report content and the action undertaken where required. Do I have someone to move that motion? Councillor Gaffney, seconder. Councillor Price, do you wish to speak to it?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to point out in item 8.1 that Indigo Shire Council had to spend $21,000 on repair to the Stanley Myrtlefoot Road. I believe it's road between Q Springs and the Stanley Township. I've seen photos of the damage which is on the shoulder of that road, and it's certainly been caused by a heavy vehicle, and it's a road used by those water tankers.
Okay.
Perhaps questions could be asked when Goulburn Murray Water come to Indigo Shire in a few weeks.
Certainly. Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Price, do you wish to add anything to that? Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Item 12.1 is the Plastic Wise Policy, and the recommendation is that Council adopts the Plastic Wise Policy 2018. As you will know, this was in draft form for community consultation, so it's come back now. And the recommendation is that we adopt that plan. Do I have someone to move it? Councillor Price, do I have a seconder? Councillor Murdoch, do you wish to speak to it, Councillor?
Only to reiterate what was said when we put it out for some further feedback, is that it's really good to see that a policy like this has come from the community and is now being adapted by the council as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Murdoch, do you wish to add to that? All right. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Councillor Gaffney.
Just a question for Councillor Price. On page 31, where it talks about risk and opportunity management, it says, under controls and treatments, ensure all staff are aware of the policy, make support available to assist with compliance, management set a culture of organisational discipline to the policy. What form of punishment would be given to staff members who didn't comply with this policy, Councillor?
I don't even think I'll entertain that, Madam Mayor.
Fair call, Councillor Price. So I'm going to put the motion. Anyone else wish to speak?
It was a difficult question.
Thanks for your input, Councillor. Any other comments from councillors? Okay, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? All right, carried. And again, thank you to everyone for their work on this. It's taken a lot of work, a lot of input from the community, and it's a positive outcome. Okay, so no reports from the executive management, no notices of motion. A copy of my diary for the month of June is available for anyone that wants to have a look at it. And
I've just got a question about your diary, Madam Mayor.
Have you, Councillor?
On the 2nd of June at 2 p.m, I noticed you went to a Getting Elected workshop. I thought you were already elected. I was just wondering, did you learn anything from that workshop?
I might want to get elected again, Councillor. No, I didn't learn anything new. I was actually speaking at that workshop about how to get elected for local government, and I would encourage people to put their hands up. It's a very rewarding experience. General business, any items for general business? Nope. And we don't need to go into confidential. And so at this stage, I'm going to close the meeting. Thank you very much to everyone for attending and for those who are viewing the meeting online. Thank you. We'll see you at the next one in August, but I don't have the date. Thanks.